The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, translation by Chip Hartranft. Chapter 1, Samadhipad, Integration. 1.12. Both practice and non-reaction are required to still the patterns of consciousness. Both practice and non-reaction are required to still the patterning of consciousness. Abhyasa vairagyabhyam tannirodha. Abhyasa vairagyabhyam tannirodha. When broken down into separate words, the Sanskrit words are Abhyasa vairagyabhyam tad nirodha. Once again, Abhyasa vairagyabhyam tad nirodha. The meaning of each word is as follows. Abhyasa means the practice. Literally it means practice, the practice of anything. But over here it implies the practice of meditation, a spiritual practice of your choice. Literally the practice of meditation. Vairagya means detachment towards worldly pleasures. Detachment for the things of the world. Dispassion or non-reaction, as in not reacting to the impulses that arise in the mind, the desires of the mind. Therefore, detachment or non-attachment. Tad means these, as in these patterns of consciousness are to be stilled through the practice of meditation and through the cultivation of detachment, an attitude of detachment towards the world. So tad means these, pointing towards these vrittis, these patterns of consciousness, these restless wanderings of the mind, these modifications of the mind, these unwanted impulses, desires and thoughts. Nirodha, stilling or cessation or restriction or stopping. This is a word we are familiar with. Both practice and non-reaction are required to still the patterning of consciousness. Narrator's comments. Practice here refers to the practice of meditation, and non-reaction refers to detachment. Detachment towards the world. It doesn't imply that you have to leave your home and go and sit in a cave somewhere. It just means changing one's own attitude towards worldly pleasures. We still have to keep doing the same things we were doing yesterday, but now after initiation into yoga, our attitude towards those things changes. First, before the yoga initiation, we were hungry towards the world. We were hungry for acquiring worldly things. We had a taste for worldly pleasures. We were anxious to do things in the world and achieve things. Now, all that is gone. We still do our duties. We don't do all of those things we did earlier, because most of them will have fallen away as one acquires an apathy towards worldly pleasures. But we still do things that are necessary for our survival, like we earn money and we might go to a job or conduct a business and still be in the family and serve our family and children and parents and wife. But now we do it with a sense of dispassion. There is no clinging towards anything. There is no demand that things should be a certain way. If something goes, we are ready to accept that it has to go. That's fine. If you lose your job, no big deal. You'll still get on with life. something is going to happen that'll keep you afloat. If you lose your spouse, that's fine, you'll be okay, and so on and so forth. You will learn to cope, and you have to accept that things are transitory, they're transient. That's the nature of the world. So, where does non reaction come from? It comes from observing, making two observations about the world. One, that everything is transient. Everything is kaleidoscopic, it changes by the moment. So, to expect anything to be static or stationary or a certain way to my liking is fraught with foolishness and is bound to disappoint. That's one leg or one of the tools to develop dispassion, or one of the observations you make about the world in order to foster a sense of dispassion within yourself for worldly pleasures. The second source of detachment, or the second observation we might make about the world in order to cultivate a sense of dispassion, is that things of the world actually do not satisfy. If you go deep into this, you will see that everything, every achievement or every pleasure that we consider as a pleasure, or every attainment that we consider as an attainment in the world, actually does not satisfy. Not only does it not satisfy, it is a source of great misery and distress and grief. Whether it be a new job, maybe you're sick of your job and you applied somewhere hoping that the new job will be better. After a honeymoon period of 3 months, 6 months, you'll realize that things are either just as bad or worse. Whether it be a new life partner, the whole thing dies down in some time, the whole attraction thing, and then you come to terms with each other's weaknesses and irritabilities and things that actually really bother you about the other person. And then there are hatreds developed and all kinds of things. I don't want to get into that. But whatever it is, a new business, well, first few months might be months of great enthusiasm, and then the fit hits the shan, and then you realize what you've taken upon yourself, and then there's a whole host of many years of, but you fool yourself into this narrative, especially going on with the motivational circuit that you hear in modern culture, that oh, this is the price of success and you have to plow on, tell yourself all of that and get through some very difficult times. But you actually, if you look at it very honestly, the whole of it is nothing but trouble. Whatever you beget in the world is actually just trouble. So the best thing is to not cling to it. You shouldn't leave everything you already have. You shouldn't abandon your family and children. But you should now see that none of these things actually give pleasure, and none of these actually belong to me, and they're going to go anyway someday. Everything is going to be separated, everything is going to break down someday. So automatically you just make an internal adjustment of attitude towards the world. This is detachment. So the two necessities in order to alleviate pain and suffering and to achieve yoga, that is to still the mind, are one, the practice of meditation, the daily practice of meditation, a regular, uninterrupted flow of meditation on an everyday basis. And second, even more important than meditation, is vairagya, dispassion or detachment. Even if one of these is missing, full yoga will not be achieved, as in the mind will not still itself. It'll still itself. If you just practice meditation, for example, your mind will become still and still and still. But if you do not practice dispassion towards the world, meaning if you keep going to parties and keep thinking that the world is a great fun place, and then you don't want to miss out on all the fun, you want to catch the fun, so to speak, and you're always there at happening places, and wherever you go becomes a happening place, and you're the center of attraction of parties, and you just can't sit quietly, and you just can't sit without doing anything. Whenever you find yourself in such a moment where you're alone and there's nothing to do, you quickly hop out to either go to the nearest local bazaar to buy something, or you go to the mall. Meaning, if you're very active socially and in a worldly sense, you have a lot of friends, you go out to a lot of parties. They may not be those thug parties or rave parties, even they could even be as innocent as birthday parties or marriage functions. But you do have a very active social life. You are very involved with other people. You have a lot of friends, or so you think. And a lot of people always visit you, or you keep getting invitations to go here and there, and you're collecting awards, or you have a lot of body consciousness and you work out a lot and you just keep thinking about how your legs are looking and how which day you're going to do biceps and which day you're going to do the legs and all that stuff. And you keep looking in the mirror and you're grooming yourself constantly. Or you have some funny ideas about the importance of social symbols, like having a certain kind of status or certain kind of lifestyle that you can't do without. You want to have a certain kind of job, you have to have a dog, you have to have a haircut from such and such shop, you have to wear these kind of clothes, you have to drive such and such a type of car, or you have certain worldly passions, as they call it, like photography, traveling. Then that is not detachment. All of that is a detriment to yoga. It's going to hinder you from cultivating stillness and quiet. And it's going to bind you to misery. It's bound to increase your misery. And as a result, you're going to wipe off any stillness, any fruits your meditation practice will have brought you by engaging foolishly with the world, thinking that it is a very pleasurable place. Likewise, if you just have dispassion towards the world, but you don't practice meditation, then you're going to go into a depression. Because, yes, the world is a very sorrowful place, and not to discourage you or get you depressed, it can become happy, and it does become happy for the person who practices yoga. So there is light at the end of the tunnel for the yoga practitioner. But the when I say life is sorrowful, it means the general conventional reality of everyday living, going through, paying your taxes, living in the matrix, just the whole thing, the way we've organized society, all of this is quite traumatic for any individual. So if you're depressed, it's not really your fault. Not your fault in the sense, your depression is a natural response of your mind towards the anomalies of both your own lifestyle and thereby the repercussions your lifestyle has had on the environment around you, the society around you. And in general, the whole modern society is structured that way, that it not only normalizes sin, but it also glamorizes sin. So it's not your fault that you feel depressed. So if you practice just dispassion towards the world, if you just withdraw from the world but don't practice meditation, then you don't have an anchor to latch on to. So you are likely to get very morose, and that's not good either. So both the prongs are necessary to complete this fork. So both the legs are necessary to to practice yoga. Both the practice of meditation and dispassion or detachment towards the world, towards worldly pleasures. And both complement each other. The more you practice meditation, the mind will get still and it'll help you see clearly. It'll help you attain more clarity towards seeing the world in the way it should be seen. Seeing that everything is breaking down. You're going to get old one day. There's going to be disease. You're going to die. All of this is painful. Marriage does not bring happiness. I know we celebrate, we spend a lot on weddings, but it's really foolish. You will start seeing things when people are dancing on a wedding. You'll just feel the irony of it. Like they're dancing, they're inviting calamity and celebrating that. How innocent and how ignorant of them and how foolish of them. Similarly, if someone gets a job and he distributes sweets, then or someone gets a promotion or wins a court case or something like that, and they distribute sweets or something, or they buy a new car, whatever it is, it's not going to give them happiness. In fact, it's just going to increase their troubles. If you win a court case, there's going to be a follow-up repercussions. The person you just defeated might file another case challenging the verdict or whatever, and there's going to be turmoil. There's going to be mental turmoil. Not better to not get into that in the first place. If you buy a new car, you'll obviously have to spend more money on its maintenance, petrol, parking. If you bought it on a loan, then the EMIs, and you have to keep working on a job to pay off those EMIs, and you just basically increase your expenses. The possibility of someone damaging something by accidents, all kinds of things. Not to say that then you shouldn't do anything at all. I'm just saying this is the stark reality of everyday existence, that it hangs on a very vulnerable thread of perility and danger and just uncertainty. That's how life is. And so to see it as it is, that it is fraught with danger and peril and inevitability, like sickness and disease and old age and death, and everything that we celebrate actually is a cause for mourning. So that's the true way of seeing life. But if you just look at this and not meditate, then you will get depressed. So both are necessary. The more you practice meditation, the more it will help you see life clearly. The more you see life clearly, the quieter your mind will be, and the next time you sit for meditation, your mind will hit even deeper notes of silence, and the peace will just grow, and the silence will grow, and all the sorrow will dissolve gradually over time. It doesn't happen in a day, it'll happen over a long period of time. Now, so this sutra just said that these are the two legs of yoga. These are the two necessities to practice yoga. One, the practice, which is meditation, abhyasa. Second was vairagya, means dispassion or detachment towards worldly pleasures. The next sutra will tell us what abhyasa means, which I've already just discussed, which is practice. In the 39th verse of this chapter, he says, Yatha abhimata dhyanadva, means meditate on whatever you like. It could be listening to a gong, that's fine. If that floats your boat, there's no wrong way to do it. Anything that quietens your mind. But the most effective thing, of course, is to think of God, contemplate on God. Yoga system, this Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, this document is one of a theistic system. It is devotional, and it is, unlike what other people will tell you, it is actually a very theistic and devotional and reverent scripture. Another note I would like to point out is that the translation we are reading through this recording is of Chip Hartranft, who happens to be a Buddhist monk, and so it may not look like it is theistic. For instance, in one of the sutras in this chapter, I think it's 23, 23rd sutra and 24th sutra of this chapter talks about Ishvara or God. And so yoga is actually devotion, it is mysticism, it is devotion towards God. Anyway, I'll close it here. This is a Buddhist translation, so you might not get the idea that it is theistic, because he uses very neutral words like pure awareness, and for Ishvara he uses the word an ideal of pure awareness, which is all fine, but yoga itself is a very theistic discipline. I'll close it here. In the next sutra, Patanjali tells us what practice means.